let's cover a tier list on how good a Pokemon's first gank is. Now, I've broken it up. We've got S tier is a very strong gank, and they will snowball for the rest of the game. A tier Pokemon have a strong first gank, but they tend to die off a little bit. A B tier Pokemon has a good gank, or I'm going to say good slash meh gank. It's, it's okay, but it's really not the best, and you can jungle with those Pokemon, but the ganking isn't as good. C tier and D tier Pokemon are just Pokemon you shouldn't jungle with. The difference is C tier Pokemon actually have a alright gank. So if you want to play some standards, or I don't know, if you're in the mood to do something that might annoy your solo queue teammates, you could use one of these Pokemon in the jungle. So let's start off. Leafeon. Leafeon is S plus tier. This Pokemon has an incredible first gank. It's got a high skill ceiling, and you can snowball for the rest of the game because you get that second skill at level 6, which is probably going to happen when you win the lane, you get a couple stacks in, and then you continue to go through your rotations, and by that 8-minute mark, if you've played it really, really well, you'll have your Unite move for those middle Bs, and you can use that Unite move, and then you can have your Unite move for a second time for the first objective and be level 10. This Pokemon is massively snowbally if you don't shut it down properly. If you let it win the lane and get a couple stacks in, you can't give this Pokemon time. Okay, you have to try and stall it. So incredibly strong, incredibly snowbally, and a high skill ceiling. I absolutely love Leafeon at the moment. Espeon is like, it's B tier, right? You can jungle or jungle split with this Pokemon. Typically kind of hard to do that in solo queue. Honestly, in solo queue, I'd probably put it in C tier, but I'm going to put it in B just because you can split the jungle with this Pokemon. Yeah, it's okay. Its Power Spike it would already have if you just stayed in the lane with it. So honestly, not a big deal. Lapras, D tier. Don't jungle, bad gank. Uh, Glaceon is B tier, but it snowballs pretty well. Um, it's not actually that good at the first gank. It doesn't have a strong first gank, but it's a great pick for the jungle. It's thankfully been given some nerfs, so we're gonna slot Glaceon right there. Zacian is S tier, right? Super strong first gank, especially with those buffs. Has got incredible mobility and is really, really snowbally, especially if it's enabled by a Pokemon like Eldegoss, who is in the D tier. So yeah, a little bit concerning there. Dodrio is, again, that's S tier Pokemon. Honestly, really snowbally. If you've ever versed a Dodrio that gets out of control, it's really, really hard to manage, especially if they have got the likes of a healer or, like a mage support helping them do the best work that they can do. So really, really strong pick. You could also take Dodrio into the lane, but as a gank, it's incredibly strong. You get that Drill Peck, which can just wipe a lane. It puts them out of position, and then you kill them, and then you get some stacks in. So really, really good pick. Blissey, no. Comfey, no. Greedent, no. Slowbro, no. These Pokemon are just not for the jungle, and they don't have a good gank. I just don't think there's any arguing it. Chandelure. Chandelure's got a strong first gank. Okay, I don't actually think it's a very snowbally Pokemon. I think it's very in control. But really, really strong pick. Great pick for lane. Great pick for jungle. Just an awesome overall Pokemon to be using. Ninetales is, again, I'm only saying this same comment as Espeon. It's got a decent gank. Especially if you've got him with the red buff and you've got some red emblems and attack speed, it can be really, really hard, and it can really shut you down well. But I only put it in the B tier instead of the C tier just because you can jungle split. Duraludon is honestly a Pokemon that I'm not too scared of when it comes down to gank. You can kite it, it can't really push the goal zone too hard unless if it's got a laner that's been fed. Yeah, I'm going to put him just there. Meh. Mew's got an incredible first gank. Um, Pretty slept on, right? You can come in, you can change up your skills at level 5. So you've got a lot of flexibility, you've got a lot of variability. You can go coaching if you think you need that. You can go light screen if the enemy has come down with their jungler. I think Mew's a really, really good jungler. Actually, I think it's really, really good. The only problem is it's got a slow jungle clear, so you need to understand how to clear this jungle. Charizard is a strong first gank. It does not snowball the game. It doesn't snowball the game. Okay, however, it's a strong pick. It's a strong jungler. You get that flamethrower at level 5. It's got a lot of range, a lot better than being level 4. So I think he is a strong first gank. Not the best in the game, but definitely, yeah, it's not good. It's definitely strong. Clefable, no. Hooper, no. Mr. Mime, no. Sableye, no. Umbreon, you don't jungle with Umbreon, but it's actually got a pretty decent first gank. It comes in with foul play, and honestly, like this can be pretty scary with the buffs. It's actually got a pretty decent gank, but I'm gonna say no. You just shouldn't jungle with it. Honestly, same as Trevenant. Like Trevenant coming in with the buffs, coming in with a big wood hammer or a big curse, like that's scary. And then I get some stacks in. It, you know, like it's actually an option if you did a jungle rotation strategy where the Trevenant did the first jungle clear and then stayed in lane as fed as he is, and then gets some scores in, so gets some stacks and then stays in lane. It can be pretty scary. But in solo queue, we don't stack with this Pokemon. Decidueye's got a pretty ordinary first gank. Definitely unimpactful. If it's a 3v3, you're probably not going to win unless if the enemy makes mistakes. So I'm going to put him right there. Same as Delphox. Delphox gets that level 6 power spike. Decidueye gets that level 7 power spike. Yeah, he just fits nicely there. Urshifu, and this is the water Urshifu, is a very strong and very snowbally with that surging strikes. Thank goodness he got a nerf, but he is still incredibly good at that first gank and really snowbally. Like he will push you and kill you on your second tier, no mercy, and then work his way back up to the goal zone and then put some stacks in and then probably go invade your jungle or go back to his own jungle. Really, really scary Pokemon. Zeraorc is the same, honestly. High skill ceiling Zeraorc, pretty scary. Pretty scary. Buzzwole, I might get a bit of hate for this. I just don't think you should be jungling with Buzzwole personally. I don't think he's a good jungle Pokemon. I think he's a good lane pick. He's pretty strong early, especially if you've got a bit of mage support with him or a healer. Something with a bit of range, right? Like an Eldegoss or a Pikachu or something like that. I can do a lot of work. Wigglytuff, no. Blastoise, no. Blastoise with a gank, no. I've heard that it's decent, but I just can't agree with that. Cinderace, it has got a pretty meh gank. It's not too strong. Again, he gets that level 7 power spike, so it's really not that great. Dragapult is definitely has a very strong first gank, right? Gets the move Dragon Dance, has great mobility. You can really punish enemies that overcommit, especially if you sneak up. So it's a scary Pokemon to verse, especially if it gets fed early and then if it kills you and gets a bit of score experience in, or depending on how the laners are doing, that can be a very quick recipe for disaster and the game can get out of control. Honestly, is borderline snowbally. Borderline snowbally, except I don't. I'm gonna put it in snowball because I do think the Pokemon is snowbally. We're talking about best case. Like you can snowball with this Pokemon, but this is my issue with Dragapult is that the Pokemon itself functions well when it snowballs. So you get a biased point of view. You're like, oh, this Pokemon's really strong because when you're winning, you win harder, and when you lose, it's harder to come back because of how the skills function. Right? You get those resets on kills and assists, and if you're not getting the kills and assists, you're not going to snowball. So I'm going to keep it there, but I just don't think it's a very good pick in my opinion. Gardevoir is a really strong first gank, right? Future Sight or Psyshock coming in with that big burst damage, that is really, really scary, especially if you put it in the bush when you know they're in the bush, the enemy don't see it land in there. It's just very, very scary, right? So be very cautious of a Gardevoir's first gank. Sylveon, this is the same conversation as Espeon, Ninetales. You can split the jungle with the Pokemon. It does pretty well with the red buff if you're going the mystical fire set. It can jungle, but I think it's better as a split jungler. For example, if you went Ninetales and Sylveon, and Ninetales took the blue buff, and Ninetales took the red buff, and then Sylveon took the blue buff, and then they go into their respective lanes, both at level 4, nice and early. That's a viable strategy, but I'm putting it in B tier because that's coordinated. And even then, I think the ganks are a bit, they're not that strong. Okay, it's not as strong as if you funneled in a big fed Zacian. Sizzle. Sizzle's got a strong first gank slash Scyther. Scyther has a strong first gank. I don't think the Pokemon Snowbally though. I really don't think the Pokemon is very Snowbally at all. Garchomp. Garchomp can jungle. Garchomp's not in a very good point in the meta right now. It's a bit meh. Zeraora is very meh. Zeraora's just a bad pick right now. It needs some reworking. Honestly, like it's a if it had its own like just don't pick these Pokemon, that's where Zeraora fits in right now. Definitely E tier, not a great pick. Unfortunate, but because I really like Zeraora. But you know, maybe that's fair because not everyone has unlocked it and you can't buy them. So maybe that's why they don't want to make them too out of control if you don't have access to it. Goodra. Goodra's got a decent gank, but you just don't jungle with the Pokemon. Um, Cramorant? Nah, Cramorant's a good laner. And I'm gonna put this for Pikachu as well. Like, they can do a decent job at ganking, but you just don't jungle with these Pokemon. That's just my opinion. Right? Honestly, it's same as Mamoswine. Mamoswine's got a decent gank. But Mamoswine's just, you know, you don't jungle with that Pokemon. Who else can I fit in there? I think that's it of the rest. And then Crustal's there. And then Snorlax is there. Okay. Venusaur has got a very meh gank. Not strong at all. He either comes in with Sludge Bomb or Giga Drain. Honestly, not that scary. You can just defend against it. Don't let him push too hard. Yeah, really not that good. Same as Greninja. Greninja's very meh in the gank. Not really the best pick in my opinion at the moment as well. Struggles in the meta a bit. That's just my opinion. Machamp has a strong first gank. Although I think Machamp is probably not the best jungler, you can jungle with this Pokemon, and you come in with Dynamic Punch or Submission, and you can pick something off like really quickly. You can eject in, Dynamic Punch, Submission, you can take care of something, and then you're in a 3v1 situation, and you can just win the lane from there. So, but I don't think he's very snowbally. I don't think it's a snowball Pokemon. Honestly, same as Aegislash. Aegislash honestly, no. He's not strong enough to be in strong. He has a good first gank with the Sacred Sword. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it as good, right? Tyranitar is very meh, but Tyranitar is definitely a late game Pokemon. Lucario is a don't jungle, but if you choose to jungle, he's actually decent in the lane. But you might as well just lane properly with him, and you'll probably end up with E-speed by those first Bs. So yeah, Lucario is definitely just a don't jungle with it. Same as Serena, just probably not the best jungler, Serena, in my opinion. Um, Serena's just a really bad pick at the moment as well, unfortunately. Talonflame. Is Talonflame snowbally? No. But his first gank is really scary, right? Comes in with acrobatics and then can do a flame charge or can do an aerial ace. If you're out of position and not prepared for that, you're wiped. You are dead. Okay, you've got to be so careful. Such a crazy good assassin, especially comes online at level 5 with the assassin power and with the buffs. Oh, you got to be careful. You cannot let that Pokemon catch you at a first gank. It'll kill you. Gengar at a first gank is pretty good. I think it's got a strong first gank. If it comes in, again, if you're caught out of position, you can even force something in if you work with the laners. Gengar can be pretty scary because it can come in with Will-O-Wisp and Hex, which can just wipe you, or it can Dream Eater you as a skill shot. So a well-played Gengar can actually sort you out, but Gengar's not a very good pick right now. Azumarill is, once again, kind of same conversation as Lucario, Serena. They're probably just not a great jungler, in my opinion. Not a very good jungler. Dragonite, you can jungle with it, but I just think the first gank is pretty trash. So you've got to respect that that Pokemon's going to come online later in the game. And last but not least, Absol has a very strong first gank. Same as Gengar though, just kind of sucks at the moment, unfortunately. So this is our tier list, right? We've got a S tier Pokemon. These are really strong picks. You can see some of these are glass cannons, right? Here are our glass cannons. Straight away, they're very snowbally. They're very high skill cap, and they're really good at first gank. You can see a lot of these Pokemon in S tier actually have a high skill cap. Like Zacian is not easy to use. Urshifu is not easy to use. Dare I say, Dragapult, positioning wise, is not too easy to use, and you've got to use the skills properly and have good map awareness. So all of these S tier Pokemon, they're very strong, they're very good early, they can snowball the game really, really well, but this is purely based off of their first gank. Right. Whereas these A tier Pokemon, these Pokemon have a good first gank. They are strong. However, they're probably not going to snowball the game as hard as these other picks. So when we're looking at this as well, it's really important to have a look at this list and understand, okay, if I'm playing, for example, bottom lane Lucario, and I see that the enemy has got a Leafeon, or the enemy has got a Zacian, if it's 9 minutes 15, don't push for a score because the enemy has vision on you. And if they're a very strong ganker, you're going to die for a score and then they're going to wipe the lane, right? So, whereas if the enemy had, for example, I'm going to say Delphox, all right? The little Delphox, the whatever he's called, the reboot or whatever he is, comes down, the level 5 thing, and you can just Meteor Mash him away and you've got mobility, okay? Whereas a Dodrio can come down, drill peck, and just zap you to bits, right? The Leafeon's got mobility, the Zeraorc's got mobility, the Zacian's got mobility, the Talonflame has mobility and burst, the Gardevoir can burst you, right? All of these other Pokemon are really strong and they will punish your overcommitment plays. So it's really important to understand that as well when you're looking at this list. It's not just a list for fun, it's a hey, next time I'm playing a lane Pokemon, I'm going to have a look at who the enemy jungler is and make sure I'm not overcommitting, because if they have a strong first gank, you need to be careful and probably just be a little bit cautious of where the enemy jungler is at about that 9-minute 15 mark. If you've learned something from this video, please drop a like, subscribe if you are new, because there is more climbing guide videos coming. This is all just insightful, informative information to help you get a better understanding of Pokemon Unite. If you disagree with any of this stuff, please let me know, right? If you think, hey, Cramorant's a good jungler, what are you talking about, right? Maybe try it out. Please do so, okay? Because a lot of the time I am learning some new stuff from you guys in the comments. When I get roasted, for example, with some of my builds, I'm actually learning from it and trying it in my games and realizing like, hey, that's actually a pretty decent build and I was probably sleeping on it. For example, the Wish Umbreon, or for example, not using attack weight on the Decidueye. Again, it comes down to personal preference, but if you disagree with it, let me know, because honestly, everyone can still learn at any point in the game. Thanks, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed and got something out of it.